Well, hello there, health coaches. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I have a surprise episode as part of our Get Started series. Today, I have Reed Davis from Functional Diagnostic Nutrition with us, and we are here to talk about what Reed just coined. I love this phrase, identifying healing opportunities. I have heard a lot of talk in our group lately about coaches who wish that they were able to get lab testing done, look at lab tests, help our clients by actually looking at the numbers that need to be looked at. And this is a possible solution for you guys. So especially if you're just getting started and you're like, how the heck can I help anyone as a health coach? There's always that imposter syndrome. I don't know enough. I'm not a doctor. I don't have these letters after my name. I think you'll be very interested today in how much health coaches can actually do. So Reed, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a real pleasure to be here, Michelle. Thank you for inviting me.
I can't wait to get into the juicy bits, but could you start us off by just telling us a little bit about who you are and how you got involved with health coaching?
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, it wasn't called that when I started back in the late 90s. There was just all kinds of allied practitioners who were interested in helping other people. I actually came out of the environmental law fields. I was an environmental paralegal. I was saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. And I noticed the environment was really destroying a lot of these things around us. And I turned my attention to, well, what's it doing to people, including me? I didn't want anything sneaking up on me. And you hear about people dropping dead. And, I've been healthy all my life, really. And even studied some things, some Oriental or Chinese type medicine and stuff just for herbalism and stuff in the past. Anyway, I turned my attention. I switched careers. I went to work in a wellness center in Southern California, and the owner said I could go to. She was getting her diplomate in nutrition, and said I could go to all of her classes with her, and I'd get my own certificate. And then not only that, but I could work on her or with her patients in between my lessons. So I was overwhelmed with that. I mean, she really hired me to run the place as a businessman and, help them grow. But I fell in love when I did that. I went there. I fell in love with the clinical side, working face to face with Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, whomever. And the next 10 years was just the most amazing period of hard work, running thousands of labs on thousands of people, everyone that came in the office and everyone I could get to come in the office. I was really good at going out and speaking in public and getting people to come in. And here's the thing. This is like the key to it all. What really motivated me, and to this day is kind of the mission. Almost everybody coming in that office, Michelle, had already seen multiple practitioners. Some of them have been to 5, 10 or more practitioners and weren't well yet. Now I was new to the business, the field, and I thought, wow, what a ripoff. That doesn't make any sense. What's wrong with this system? Again, I was always healthy, so I never really needed to get into the medical system. And so I found out that it doesn't really serve the people very well, unless it's some emergent thing. If you get victim of a drive-by shooting, you're not going to call your nutritionist. So I started really getting into what's really wrong. I said, naively, looking back, it's kind of silly, really. I said, well, I'm going to be the last person you need to see. And so I was just really fortunate enough to have great mentors there in the office. And they were alternative practitioners of the day, like the top ones. And the guys who were running the labs back then, it was all the alternative labs, saliva testing and stool testing and urine testing. Everyone else, the standard medicine was only running blood tests for the most part. And people were being turned away saying, well, nothing's wrong with you. Your blood work looks normal. So a lot of you probably have heard that or know someone who's heard that. And I said, well, let's run these other labs that I'm learning about and see if we can find something that's really wrong with you. And that's because I'm not a physician too. You have to understand, I've been doing this a long, long time, 22 years, and I've never once diagnosed a medical condition or treated a medical condition. What I've looked for is the phrase that you just quoted, healing opportunities. Like what's out of balance or what's dysfunctional, what's going on. And just over those 10 years, with thousands of labs on thousands of people, I recognized some patterns. gee, everyone, all these people with these persistent, long-term chronic degenerative downward spiraling problems have a lot in common. The hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, a couple other things. So I just became really good at looking in those areas. And then of course, I wasn't diagnosed or treating anything specific because I'm not a physician, but I was using the lab work. And then the other sort of magic is that you couldn't use drugs. You couldn't write a prescription. You couldn't just sell supplements. At least I didn't want to just sell supplements. It didn't work anyway if you just tried it. So I came up with this whole holistic way of, what do you really have to do to repair all of this chronic degenerative stuff? And it comes up with the lifestyle program. It's ancient wisdom in a sense. It's applying the general principles of health building, like diet, the right one for you, rest and exercise and stress reduction, which is huge. Probably almost everyone's heard that word stress before. And then last but not least, the supplements, that, and actually my training was a lot on the supplements, and I found that just wasn't satisfactory, just selling stuff. So it's looking at these labs in all these areas and then applying the general principle of health to change what's really going on upstream. And people got, pretty magical results a lot of the time. And over the years, I have kind of refined it to where it's very consistent, very repeatable, duplicatable, reliable, reasonable expectations, like almost no matter what your problem is.
Wow. So you've really been at this for a long time. I've been in the health coaching industry since 2008, and I feel like that's ancient history. But you've been doing this since before certifications even existed. And now you've gone on to create functional diagnostic nutrition. Can you tell us a little bit about that school and what
Sure.
you're doing over there?
Yeah, thank you. So in 2008, I was when I taught my first class. And it was just because people were saying, Reed, you need to be teaching. You should teach others. And the labs that I was using, they were coming to me and saying, who the hell are you? No one runs this many labs. Now, I thought that was weird. Why isn't everybody running this many labs? I just didn't know you couldn't do it, sort of. And I put my first class together. It was just a 2-day workshop. I stood in front of 200 slides, which took me 6 months to prepare. But I did a good job. I went, and I only had 20 people. So that was the very first time I tried to teach. And I kind of didn't even think I'd be very good at it. It was like, okay, I'll do it, And now I kind of fell in love with that. It's my next chapter because now I'm able to deputize people to go out in the world and do what I had learned to do very successfully in the office. So we had a very good track record. I built a huge practice for myself the word health coach still wasn't around. I called myself just like a nutritionist. I was also a personal trainer. I was a myofascial therapy body worker. I had a lot of skills, a bunch of other certificates. Like most of the people in our profession, we usually have bachelor's or master's degrees and multiple certificates and a lot of experience. And that's all I had. But it was this course just took off and it created a real community around it. Everyone kind of loves being an FDN. If you hear about it, you'll usually hear it talked about fairly affectionately because we're doing really good work and we're professional entrepreneurs as well. We hold ourselves out to the public to do some good, and we all do pretty well with it if you follow the formula.
Okay, so here's my question, because I've been doing this work a long time, and over the past 5-ish years, it's just become more strict, more certification is required. This state is red, this state is green. Know your state laws. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. Who's getting in trouble? Who's getting shut down? And yet here you are, graduating health coaches who are able to get these lab tests done, look at them, create protocols. How on earth is this legal?
Well, there's nothing illegal. There's no regulation of health coaching, first of all, none. And we don't do anything wrong. We don't practice medicine. In matter of fact, I feel kind of on the leadership and part of the sort of generation that defined the boundaries, because I, from day one, have never practiced medicine. I've never crossed the fence. There's almost like a big gap between what the unlicensed practitioner does and medicine. I think that we have bridged that gap, and I think we own that bridge, but we never crossed the line. So I don't have, and have never given a diagnosis or treatment of anything specific. And you might say, well, then how do you help someone who's got fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or something like that? We look at the healing opportunities upstream. And again, that's what they are. They're not medical diagnoses. Matter of fact, most of the labs we use are considered research use only. Doctors don't use them. They use the IVD or in vitro diagnostic testing because they need a diagnosis to put on a piece of paper so they can get paid by an insurance company. There's all these algorithms that they have to work within, and we could talk all day about that. But so that's not our algorithm. You know, we are in an arm's length transaction with a person who wants to find out what's really wrong, and it's a service. It's kind of like, you know, even though lawyers are licensed, it's like a lawyer. If you go to a lawyer, you're going to pay them up front, and then they're going to do their work. And that's how we operate too. As entrepreneurs and as professionals, we get paid to service a client. Now that client wants to look at data. They don't want to be guessing anymore. They're tired of the runaround. This, I call it the cycle of trial and error. They've been to a physician. They've been told nothing's wrong with you. Your blood work looks normal. Or, you know, here's a chill pill prescription. Even if they have an abnormal marker, it's only one marker. And so, and then they're kind of treating the paper. Well, here, this will bring that one thing into range here. That's just their algorithm that they have to use. And so we're not bound by those things. So we can look at multiple healing opportunities, and we're just looking. We're not diagnosing and treating. In other words, and this word interpretation comes up. It's a non-medical interpretation, or just an assessment, or just education around what's really going on. Now, in my course, it's very robust. We teach the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry, what's really going on here. It's a very robust course and all that. And you have to know that to be able to, you know, look at the numbers in a, again, not a medical interpretation, but what's really out of balance, what's really wrong here. What can this person, and then what can this person do? And so it guides the what can they do. And people are just thrilled, Michelle. They just, when you go over the lab data, and what's wrong with using information? It's just information about what's going on with you. And as long as you're not giving that medical diagnosis. And so we're using that information to teach Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones why they feel so crappy. And guess what they do? They go, I can't believe it. How come no one ever else ran these labs to me? You're finally explaining to me for the first time. I've been struggling. I've seen 10 practitioners and I'm still not better yet. Now you're finally showing me why I feel the way I do, whatever that feeling might be, or maybe it's their appearance, something about the way they look or feel. And so we're going, yeah, well, you know, this is just how it works in our world. And, you know, then they want to know, well, what do I do? And so now you've got some information, data, some numbers, if you want, that will, you know, help shape that lifestyle. It's completely holistic lifestyle. Again, it's not diagnosing and treating specifically. The beauty of our protocol is that it treats every cell, tissue, organ, and system simultaneously. Like if I said, what condition does exercise treat? All of them. You know, in a sense, you're self-treating every cell, every tissue, every organ, and every system. The entire organism is going to improve when you exercise properly, or when you sleep the regular proper amounts, or when you eat right for your metabolic type, and when you're not eating what foods you're sensitive to. And then it just kind of goes from there. Diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction is huge. There's so many different types of stress, and we're pretty good at sorting that out and helping people sort that out. That's where some of the coaching comes in, if you want. And then supplementation. Again, you're not taking this for that. You're just using what's available, what people are buying anyway, and to support and to perhaps stimulate. Like when you get on a plane, do you take your zinc, you know, and your other immune stim? Of course, we all do. You know, that's not prescribing. That's not medicating. You're just using what's out there that's available, that is supportive, stimulatory, or simply what's missing from food. You know, food is low quality, and I'll just kind of round it off by saying food doesn't have all the vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids, amino acids, antioxidants, phytonutrients, trace elements, because the ground is so void of those things. The commercial food, even organic food, it isn't that much more nutritious. We just eat it because it's got no pesticide. We're avoiding, that's a form of stress reduction. You want less stress on your body, eat less poison. That's
That'll
pretty
do
good.
it.
That's a tip for the ages.
There's a hot tip from Reed
So,
Davis.
so we look at the HIDDEN stressors and dysfunctions. That's the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system. That's where we look for our healing opportunities. It's a very step-by-step procedure. When you're assessing, helping someone, they hire you to help them. So we have to look at those things, and then we just recommend and kind of tailor the DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. That's why people love FDN, because it's laid out. It's really well organized. It's step by step, and I teach it on a gradient. Kind of the easier stuff first. You do get a lot of science. People have compared it to a master's program in terms of the amount of scientific stuff. I mean, again, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. We throw in a few good doses of mental, emotional, spiritual type stuff too, and that way we're actually dealing with the whole person.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I've been a health coach for 12 years, and like right now, I'm working with a client who I'm pretty sure she's got some hypothyroidism going on. So, what I would do now in my practice is give her a list of lab tests that I think that she could benefit from getting from her doctor. She's going to go to her doctor. She's going to ask for these tests. What typically happens is they'll do like one or two of them. They don't do all of them, or they'll say, well, that's not going to be covered by insurance, but blah, blah, blah. She gets the
Yeah.
runaround. What would be different in my practice in this case if I were certified through FDN's program?
Well, you cut out the middleman, and you cut out all the nonsense about the algorithms around insurance billing and what's covered, what's not covered. And that can, again, I can spend an hour on how frustrating people can get by going through that system and the algorithms there. They can't get to the right, even if they need medication, they can't even get to the right one. You have to try this one first. It has to not work. Then you can try the next one. That has to not work. And maybe by the fourth one, you get what the doctor knew was going to be the one that worked for you. But the algorithms don't allow that. So again, we'll put that off to the side for a minute and say that you cut out the middleman. So we have what's called a medical director program. It's only available to my graduates, and it's a direct to consumer lab testing program. Now, when I started, there was only me and one other company, and I started out of pure necessity. So I was in the office for 10 years and decided to start teaching. And then I realized that most of my students couldn't get the lab work. I was getting it through the doctors where I worked. They just trusted me, and they just knew, who I was, and they helped me shape that whole non-medical, no diagnosing, no treating, and the protocols and stuff. So I had to make a deal with the lab. I was using one main lab and my best friend physician, who to be able to provide the same accessibility to my students. Well, guess what? There's 40 different companies doing that now, including the major referencing labs. Quest and LabCorp have direct-to-consumer programs, so anyone can get labs. The difference is, do you know what you're looking at? Do you know which labs you really want to see? Do you know how to shape your protocols based on that information? So that's where our training comes in. But anyone could do lab. You could right now could work with several different sort of direct to consumer companies. So what you're doing as a health coach, you're not ordering it like a physician would order X-rays or order a CT scan or a blood work even. You're just, like you just said, you would hope the client would get certain lab work done, hope their doctor will run it. Again, just sort of cut out the middleman, tell them what you just said, and then expedite it for them. You can just have that relationship with the lab through our medical director program, and get the kit shipped to that person. But all you're sending them, the only thing you're ordering for them is a box with some tubes in it and a couple submittal forms. You're not ordering it in that same phrase that a doctor orders an x-ray or like that they have to do, again, as part of their algorithms and standard of care. So you're just expediting. They're paying you to do it, and obviously if they're paying you to help them in this way, they're going to want you to give them your assessment of what does the paper say. So you're going to help them with that. You're going to understand the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry, everything going on. What's out of balance? And by the way, we focus there. So again, we're not looking for treatment options. And I spent 10 years as a clinical advisor for a lab, had doctors call me. I just gave them, I ended up narrowing it down about 2 hours every Friday morning, and still was on the phone with doctors saying, what's the diagnosis? What's the dosage? What's the frequency, of the agent to use to treat the paper? And I converted a lot of doctors to our way of thinking that, no, it doesn't work like that here. Here's the healing opportunity. This is what tell me about this person and then we can talk about what they need to do. And
Wow.
so,
Okay. So let me interrupt you there. When you said that I would be able to get on the phone with your facility, get some lab tests for my client, are we talking about blood tests? Are you doing like Dutch testing? Like how
all
extensive
of
does the
them.
testing get?
Now we have 72 labs that we
Wow.
work with. Yeah. Started with one, but there wasn't 72 labs around in 2008 when I started. There was, especially on this sort of the alternative, the functional labs and things. Now everyone's jumping in the game. So we use labs. By the way, we're in 50 countries, so we have to deal with labs in Australia and United Kingdom and Europe and Canada. We have a new lab from Canada we're just loving. And again, I spent 10 years with the lab. I'm on another clinical advisor staff now for another lab. And so it's we've been doing it a long time, and I feel really confident that we're doing the right thing for the people.
This is really fascinating. So I just heard you say that you're graduating health coaches that are able to run lab tests, help their clients look at those numbers, improve their health based on those numbers across the US in every state. Yes?
It's harder in some states to get the lab work. That's something I have no control over. In some countries, it's impossible. People call me from Lebanon. Can I sign up for your course? Yeah, you can sign up for the course. You should take the course. You should learn everything we have to teach you and start developing your American clientele or clientele that live in countries besides yours, because your country won't let us send. It's not so much we can't get the empty boxes with the tubes into the country. You can't get the specimens back out of the country. They won't ship stool, even like South America. Mexico's hard. China is not impossible, but you got to know somebody there, and so on. So you got to work through Hong Kong for the most part. So we've kind of got this experience around the globe, but in the United States, the only really difficult state is New York, which I think is where you are.
Yes.
And my FDNs are just and the labs are very creative. No one's breaking any laws, but there's just ways they seem to get the work done. And I'm not operating out of New York myself, so I don't have much to do with it, but I know they're getting lab work done.
Very interesting. Okay, so these are really empowered health professionals doing work that I think goes in a whole other arena beyond what most health coach schools are providing, their students with the ability to do. So I wanted to first of all, thank you for sharing all of that with us. And for those listening and those watching, you can go to healthcoachpower.com/FDN to learn more about this really unique program from Reed and all that they have to offer. We do have some graduates within our community who rave about the program. So I definitely think it is worth checking out. And Reed, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, Michelle, it's my pleasure. If I can answer any more questions for you or your listeners at any time, you feel free to reach out. Glad we met up.
Amazing. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Take care.